When it comes to pacifists in media, there's many ways their non-violent stances can be told. Either as the be-all, end-all, morally correct choice in a stupidly violent world, such as anime's iconic pacifist Vash the Stampede, or when criticized, written as idiotic and self-destructive strawmen, such as the lemurs from that one episode of Clone Wars, The Defenders of Peace. But more modern takes on pacifist characters tend to find a grayer balance of fulfilling their peaceful beliefs, while still being practical in a very violent and hateful setting. Heroes and protagonists who, while still seeking a path to peace and love, are not afraid to fight, but not often kill, mind you, to protect it. Steven Universe, the love-filled crystal gem of Earth, and Charlie Morningstar, the optimistic and kind princess of Hell, are two folks who'd rather invite you for tea to talk about your feelings over picking a fight. But if you were thinking that meant you could walk all over them, you'd be mistaken. For Steven at least. Hey team, Phantom Skull, the super security VTuber here, and today we're talking about these pacifistic sweethearts to discuss why Steven, after a decade of being animation Twitter's punching bag, is finally getting the respect he deserves, at the cost of Miss Morningstar taking his place in the internet beatdown, though not without cause. It's a battle of shields and words between this pair that are the definition of, I'm a lover, but don't assume that means I'm not a fighter. So you may be curious about what sparked this debate. Truth be told, I've been wanting to do a video on my boy Steven for a bit, but trying to find ground that hasn't been staked over a decade of content creation is tough. But boy did the opportunity arrive when this particular tweet went viral discussing the possible outcomes of Steven encountering Hazbin Season 2 villain Vox. I will say, after many years of people who never really watched Steven Universe mocking and berating him as a crybaby helpless pacifist, it was refreshing to see the internet finally put respect on Steven's name in an outpouring of hilarious art and memes about how much the lovable kid would wreck this TV head and other irredeemable villains. But there was another tweet that went viral in response to it that truly inspired this video. And they're not wrong either, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So first off, spoilers for all of Steven Universe content and Hazbin Hotel. Secondly, let's be clear that while I'm not going to be very kind to Miss Morningstar in this video, do not take this to be a hit piece on Hazbin or its creator. I'm very aware of the sheer hatedom Busy Pop has garnered over the years, and while I feel the series has a problem of good ideas, poor execution, and way too many idea pies shoved into the 8 25-minute episode season oven, it's still a charming and funny show. So let's begin with a brief synopsis of our peace and love protagonists. Centuries ago, a race of sentient space gem beings came to Earth to colonize and hollow it out. A group of rebels known as the Crystal Gems, led by the mighty Rose Quartz, actually rebellious ruler Pink Diamond in disguise, more on her later, rose up to protect the planet and to fight against the Diamond Authority and their rigid caste system. After faking her Pink Diamond persona's death to try and force the war to end, the remaining diamonds fled Earth, but not before unleashing a powerful and devastating power that corrupted the rebellious gems into monsters. With only Rose and her cherished lieutenants, Garnet, Pearl, and later a young Amethyst surviving, they would spend the next few centuries protecting Earth and imprisoning their corrupted comrades while trying to find a way to cure them, until Rose met the human beach bum and rock star Greg Universe. The two would fall in love, and ultimately Rose would give up her existence to birth their child, a half-human, half-gem boy who would be the hope for both worlds. That boy was Steven Quartz Universe. An eager and empathetic kid, he was raised by the remaining Crystal Gems to take up her mom's fight to defend the planet, and hopefully succeed where she failed in saving their corrupted friends. While the young Universe had a lot to learn about combat and gem culture, he equally helped the stoic gems find their own humanity, and eventually helped them confront their own traumas and issues concerning Rose Quartz, as the less heroic sides of her past will come to light. But as the diamonds and their gem minions began returning to finish what they started, Steven finds himself in one battle after another as he tries to defend the planet, while still trying to find the good in his enemies, all the while slowly letting his own well-being chip away into a kaiju-sized crash-out in the long run. In the great cosmic and foul-mouthed history of Hazbin's Earth, fallen angel Lucifer and forsaken first woman Lilith would find love in the Garden of Eden, embracing each other's free spirits and rebellious natures. They shared their philosophy in the apple of knowledge with the second woman, Eve, an action that allowed darkness to corrupt Earth. As punishment, the pair were cast down into hell by heaven's high angels, forced to languish in the dark realm with the worst of humanity, never allowed to see the good of their creations. As hell grew due to the still hazy qualifications of what gets a soul into heaven or hell, Lilith inspired the masses to rise up, to not be put down by heaven's authority. This resistance will be met with the devastating yearly exterminations by Adam and his exorcists, and Lilith would disappear for 7 years. In her absence, her and Lucifer's daughter, Charlie Morningstar, would seek to take up her cause by turning her mom's mansion into a rehabilitation center for sinners to cleanse their souls and move on to heaven. However, the Princess of Hell has a steep hill to climb, both due to her cynical and crude subjects not believing her ideals of redemption and treating her like a pushover, and the agents of heaven having no interest in such things, preferring the exterminations. Together with her girlfriend Vaggie and their friends at the Hazbin Hotel, this hot mess of a squad seeks to prove redemption is possible, while dodging the many bad actors trying to get in their way, along with Charlie needing to confront some not-so-great qualities of her own, along with her abandonment issues concerning her mom. These two rosy-hearted defenders of love have a few things in common, such as both being hybrids, with Steven being half-human and a half-gem alien, and Charlie being the product of a fallen seraphim angel and one of Hell's first demons, I think. Hazbin's lore gets a little murky with the differences between natural-born Hellkind demons and former human sinner demons. Regardless, they're both known for their pacifist beliefs and more willingness to find a peaceful solution to conflict, which is best shown with their choice of weapons, a shield. Granted, Charlie barely uses hers to the point I legit forgot she had one during the events of Season 2. Steven's shield holds a lot more narrative and personal importance both to his philosophy and his parentage, as it both represents his loving and protective mindset, but also his connection to his mom. Both mother and son use the shield and a wide array of barrier and healing powers to help their friends and others. While it would be revealed Rose had more destructive powers that Steven would channel in moments of anger or distress, he ultimately defaults more to her support powers, as ultimately our boy just wants to help people. It's telling that while his mom was known for using a sword and shield, he primarily focuses on the latter, and lets his partner, friend, and eventual love interest Connie handle the sword, and only seen using both when they're fused as Stevani. More on that when we get to him and Charlie's better halves, though. While he had a steep learning curve in the early seasons since, well, he was a kid, as he grew and gained more experience and training, he soon developed a wide array of ways to use his barriers and shields offensively, but only to defend himself and his friends and family. While Steven saw the potential and good for everyone, experiences with the likes of Jasper, Eyeball, free character development Peridot, and the Diamonds taught him quick that not every foe could be talked down, and he'd need to fight to protect his loved ones. Or Steven didn't develop a homicidal Punisher mindset over this, like which is common in edgy anime-type stories. He accepted he can't help someone who refuses to help themselves, and will do what he has to in order to incapacitate the foes he can't talk no jutsu down. Meanwhile, Charlie has been stated to be one of Hell's most powerful beings. On paper anyway. Despite being the daughter of Lucifer and the Demon Queen of Hell, it's hard to discuss her abilities since she, never uses them. Unlike Steven, Charlie is far deeper into her pacifist beliefs to the point she almost never uses violence as a solution, since she feels it would defeat the purpose of the hotel's philosophy of saving sinners. However, she lives in a cynical, violent realm that only respects power and feats of violence. So despite being demon royalty, Charlie is treated as the biggest joke in all 7 rings of hell. Nobody beyond those at the hotel entertain or even believe in her dreams of redemption, and treat her non-violent philosophy as an invitation to belittle and walk all over her. It's telling how bad her reputation is with Hell's citizens that the few times she's flared up in anger to threaten them when they've hurt her friends, that none of the people she does it to take her seriously, treating her with the same level of threat of a little squeaky purse dog trying to act tough. This becomes a little frustrating as this continues on into Season 2 when ultimately she needs to step up to deal with Vox, but chooses constant, convoluted schemes to expose him when she very much could have stopped his attempt to start a holy war by locking in and swatting him away. The one time she actually channels her demonic powers is after Sir Pentius is killed during the fight for the hotel. While she shows that she's not a trained fighter, she still has enough raw power to land hits on Adam, an archangel and Heaven's general, and eventually helps her dad crater his ass. But her refusal to do the same when Vox is going off the deep end is maddening. Like, he's firing a ground-based Hammer of Dawn point blank at people. You bodied the Dickmaster last season, Charlie. What the f are you doing right now? However, to play devil's advocate, I do have to mention that she considers what happened with Adam's self-defense an extreme do-or-die example, mind you. Regardless of the circumstances, she is troubled by Adam's death, and the fact that it's the only thing her subjects take away from the battle, and she refuses to get violent for the rest of the season, even if she should. She's incredibly frustrated that her people care more about killing angels than redemption, and she worries about being a hypocrite to them not getting the actual point of her goals if she has to sink to their level to make them see it. However, by the time she's trying to do something, Vox has turned most of hell against the hotel with his media spins, and has made a super weapon that can pierce heaven. Add that with the fact Heaven's leadership are a gaggle of idiots, with a bloodthirsty military advisor with a weak-willed leader, it was going to end in disaster if they didn't do something quickly. And throughout the season finale, Charlie just feels so passive, with her only real contributions being a prop in Alistair's 4D chess plan, helping out saving the survivors of Vox's crash out, which, is in character for her to be fair, and then joining Emily in doing the Power of Friendship Spirit Bomb to stop the malfunctioning super weapon from wiping them all out. While Steven had his moments of letting himself be open to manipulation and attacks from his optimistic and trusting nature, he learned from it and became much more proactive with stopping threats he couldn't reach with his heart, but never resorting to ending them, always believing even the worst of his enemies had a chance at redemption. Speaking of, that's a good segue to the next topic, their shared wish to see the good in everyone, and hope that even the biggest of their bads were capable of redeeming themselves. However, on the subject of redemption, one of these two has a much better track record than the other. Now, it does feel a little unfair to judge the redemption game when Steven has 5 seasons, a movie, and an epilogue miniseries to track his feats of love, to Charlie's measly 2 seasons. But even ignoring that gap, Charlie's record with just those 2 seasons is still abysmal compared to our young Mr. Universes. Charlie on paper is a skilled counselor who's good at getting willing participants to open up. However, a lot of this happens off-screen because the story is more focused on the conflicts with Heaven and Hell in Season 1, her disastrous attempts to manage the hotel's poor reputation and Vox's scheming, along with her personal demons in Season 2, and the multitude of side quests with other characters to actually focus on the show's theme of redemption. But her only real success is Sir Pentius, which in itself is a big deal as he's the first case of a damned soul being claimed by Heaven. After taking Charlie's lessons and losing his life sacrificing himself to try and stop Adam's rampage, he found himself reincarnated in Heaven, proving redemption is possible. And it needs to be pointed out Charlie's influence and guidance helped our good Snake Boy in turn help the distressed and regretful Sarah overcome her Season 2 indecisiveness. After recognizing the error of blindly believing in the extermination method, and it leaving her incapable of leading Heaven, and helped her take the first steps to making things right between the 2 realms peacefully. However, Charlie spends a lot more time obsessing over getting people to believe her about Sir Pentius' survival without any way to prove it yet, and not focusing on helping redeem others during Season 2. Not only does she neglect the few new residents they have in the background who stayed when Charlie made it clear they aren't going to attack more angels in the future, she utterly torpedoes the progress she had made with angel dust in her obsessive crusade to be proven right, which causes him to give up on the hotel's goal and return to his demonic pimp Valentino at the end of the season. Or Charlie in Season 2 with more sinners at her hotel for the right reasons and mostly over the issues we'll discuss in a bit, She has a long way to catch up with Steven's track record after how badly she tripped up due to her hubris. Steven's best quality described by other characters has been his ability to see the potential for good in everyone he meets, even when others don't want to give them a chance. While this has sometimes blown up in his face throughout his adventures, and has opened him up to being manipulated a few times as well, he's done his best to learn from these mistakes, but still strive to keep to his ideals without letting the negative experiences burn his passion for helping people. And this has paid off in the long run with the long list of foes he's charmed and helped to become good friends and family to him, helping the broken and apathetic Lapis to find a new home and purpose on Earth, aided the hurt and unstable Bismuth to heal from Rose's betrayal and to quell her violent need for revenge, alongside helping the psychotic and broken Spinel heal from her trauma. He also began the very long process of leading Blood Knight Jasper to start finding a new, less violent path by the end of the franchise, and the monumental task of helping the Diamonds reflect on their centuries of cruelty and become kinder leaders to Gemkind. As controversial as that outcome was given their centuries of death and dystopian rule without much repercussions for them, but this video isn't about them, so we're gonna move on. But all of those pale in comparison to his redemption of fan favorite Peridot, a home planet gem that for a long stretch of the early seasons was a relentless villain who attempted to straight up kill Steven multiple times. Even when her ability to be a threat was disabled, along with making her fun-sized, she was an abrasive jerk who treated her interactions with Steven and the Crystal Gems as an alliance of convenience, as she was trapped on Earth before the cluster. The Diamond's superfusion weapon destroyed the planet, with all of them on it. But while the Crystal Gems had zero hope for the pint-sized prick, Steven put in the work, and while it was a long road for Peridot, not only would she find a love for Earth and her first true friends, Steven and Amethyst, she developed the resolve to fight for her new home, even bad-mouthing a Diamond to her face, an all-powerful being she treated as a supreme leader, mind you, to defend Earth and Steven. Lapis and Peridot, both former foes who had bitter outlooks on Earth, became not only Steven's pals, but also found the strength to be protectors of their new home, to become Crystal Gems themselves. Speaking of the cluster, it does need to be said that Steven was able to connect with what was basically a science-made eldritch abomination, and not only help them find peace, but befriend them. The cluster was a giant planet bomb left by the Diamonds made up of hundreds of forcefully fused rebel gems, perverting the concept of fusion and turning them into a pained and nightmarish being that would destroy the Earth if they took a physical form, something they wanted very badly. Steven, while connecting with them through his gem, helped them regain their sanity to an extent, and realized that not only would forming destroy the planet, which they love, he helps them connect with each other spiritually, so that they wouldn't feel alone anymore. His love and empathy helped the near-insane cluster work together to bubble itself to prevent it from destroying the Earth, and would show up multiple times to aid Steven in his time of need, wanting to help protect the Earth and the boy that saved them no matter what. Steven's helpful nature wasn't just dedicated to villains and monsters. A vast majority of the series was him helping regular Beach City citizens with their personal problems and struggles. While it didn't always work out, and sometimes Steven's childish naivete caused more problems than solutions, he helped many of the human cast confront their personal demons and anxieties, take the first steps to healing and pursuing more positive futures for themselves. Except for Ronaldo, but nobody likes Ronaldo. I also can't move on without mentioning how he helped his mother figures, the Crystal Gems, with their own personal issues. While it's definitely not ideal that a child needed to sort his supposed parental guardian's messes, a core point of the show is that nobody is 100% evil, just trapped by their own personal demons and refusing to change. While some folks have taken the piss out of that mentality over the years, it's still important to understand in Steven Universe, the show's main theme is the concept of change. For the longest time, the Gems as a species were a rigid, unchanging force that stuck to the caste system and the roles they were made for. When Rose came to Earth initially as Pink Diamond, she began a subtle change in herself and other rebellious gems. But as we'll get into after this segment, Rose was only partially successful in changing or making up for her many mistakes. Even centuries later, both Rose and the gems had not actually changed all that much, and in a way stuck to the same rigid nature of gem kind, just now under the command of Rose. It's when her relationship with Greg blossomed that she ultimately came to the realization that what Gemkai needed was someone who could actually usher in change. Despite her best intentions, Rose was not the person for that, and ultimately chose to sacrifice her existence to birth Steven, a child who had a very human power that dwarfed any gem skill or weapon: the ability to change. Throughout the series, Steven confronts his mother figure's many personal issues that they refuse to look at themselves. He helped the stoic Garnet overcome her obsession with predetermined fates, and also helped the Fusion's components Ruby and Sapphire overcome their codependence issues to find time for themselves, but still find love with each other in the form of Garnet. With Amethyst, he helped her overcome her deep-seated self-confidence issues over her nature as a half-baked quartz and her lack of strength, allowing her to love herself and find a new purpose in helping others love themselves too. He helped Pearl learn to process her grief and unrecorded love for his mom in a healthier way, and helped her eventually find new passions and to step out to find new love. Steven was someone who did more than just redeem people. He helped dozens, if not hundreds of people in his life change for the better, though his greatest challenge would be accepting that change in his own life, but we'll get to that. It's honestly funny looking at these two and looking past their differences and realizing one of the things they have almost 100% in common is both having absent but well-meaning dads in their lives alongside absolute deadbeats for moms. I might be oversimplifying a bit for a joke, but I'm not that far off. We've discussed Rose, aka Pink Diamond, during several segments of Steven's character analysis, and frankly, Rose herself could be a video in its own right, so I'll summarize here. Rose as a character has been through the ringer with fans as we learn her story in reverse, seeing the good, heroic, and regretful defender of Earth she becomes, and over the course of the series, watch Steven and the Gems unfortunately discover the skeletons in her closet and the many messes she unintentionally left behind for them to deal with. Steven starts off idolizing his mother and the larger-than-life person Greg and the Gems describe her as, but as more of her poor and selfish decisions before her character development come to light, the more erodes her son's opinion of her. Ultimately, by the end of the series, Steven accepts she was not a good person, but someone who was trying to change but ultimately couldn't, with her last true selfless act being birthing Steven not to deal with her messes for her, but to be his own person, free of her bullshit, and allowed to change and hopefully help her friends do the same. As for Greg, while he at first comes off as an absent parent, and the epilogue miniseries Future would explore the consequences of his hands-off parenting style, does his best to be there for his son. He's not equipped to deal with the alien gem stuff, but he comes in clutch as a down-to-earth ear for Steven's human issues. Greg isn't a deadbeat dad, but one that knows his own failings, but tries to be there for his son when he needs him regardless. While we don't have a lot of time to cover them, as this video is going to be long enough as it is, I would feel remiss if I didn't mention Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, who are the parents who stepped up for Steven. While they're not perfect and ultimately had their own demons I've mentioned before that poor Steven needed to help them confront, they did their best to raise Steven and help him learn about his gem powers and heritage. At the same time, Steven helping them break their rigid gem mindsets and help them discover their own abilities to change for the better as people was a core dynamic for the entire series. And even at their worst, they are a loving family of choice that Steven will always be there for, and willing to knock anyone into the ground who threatens them. As for Charlie's demonic parentage, It's hard to talk about Lilith Morningstar since the series has barely focused on her. To call her brief seconds of screen time in Season 2 the biggest of cock teases would be an understatement. What little we see and infer with Mama Morningstar paints a pretty bad picture to the point she makes Rose look like a saint. For Charlie and most of Hell, Lilith was their shining beacon, a dark paragon who taught Hell to rise up against the holy order of winners and sinners, to become more than just lost souls. But her 8-year absence with the exterminations would leave Charlie in an emotionally fragile state, and all of Hell listless without their active ruler, and many fighting over the exact definition of resist as far as Lilith's intentions. Charlie has a rosy-tinted version of her mom's intentions for Hell to rise up via non-violent protest, and her attempts to turn the hotel into a redemption house for sinners, which is based off this belief of her mom's ideals. Vox, the villainous spin doctor, sold Hell's denizens a much more violent, bloody, and sinner-favored version of her dreams of resistance. Who is right and wrong gets murky, as while Vox is a master bullshit artist, Charlie isn't a reliable narrator, as she has a massive amount of personal issues and a self-serving memory tied to her mom going out for a pack of smokes and never coming home. The other issue being we just don't know what's going on with her. We know she's chilling in heaven due to some deal she made with Adam, and what little we see of her in Season 2 shows she's been dodging her husband and daughter's calls and texts worse than my collab DMs with other VTubers. No, I'm not salty about that. What gave you that impression? Regardless, what we the viewer see of Lilith shows a deadbeat who abandoned her family and people. And if her reasons are intended to be sympathetic, Vizzy's gonna have to pull some ultra instinct levels of writing skill to ensure the audience doesn't call bullshit on it. As for Lucifer, the circus master king of hell, he, like Greg, is an absent, somewhat immature, but ultimately well-meaning father. Or he hasn't been the most supportive parent due to his duck-themed depression over being stuck in hell with the folly of his choices, aka the sinners, along with Lilith leaving him. He does love Charlie. While Charlie can be irritated by his out-to-lunch and apathetic episodes, the two ultimately just want what's best for the other. Papa Morningstar isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, and the holy punishment bestowed upon him that leaves him unable to kill sinners, being trapped surrounded by the worst of mortals being his punishment for the whole Apple thing, making him useless against problems like Vox. He at least tries to be in Charlie's life, even if he f***s it up a lot, which is a lot more that can be said for his wife. While our protagonists don't have the healthiest family lives, the significant others are a much more positive story. Again, this video is starting to get longer than usual, and you could do a video on these two by themselves, so I'll be summarizing a lot to try and keep it specifically to their dynamics with Steven and Charlie. Charlie's fallen angel lover Vaggie is honestly the MVP of the duo. While she wholeheartedly wants to support her dream of redeeming sinners and helping them become better people, she's equal parts a pessimist and a realist. While she can sometimes default too much to the former, she's sometimes vindicated in being the latter when it comes to Charlie's naive optimism. While there was some tension between them when it's revealed she was a fallen angel and former member of Adam's exorcists, before being left for dead in hell for growing a conscience over all the sinners they killed, ultimately the two's love and trust for each other would win out. The two mostly balance each other out when they're communicating properly, which is one of the more frustrating struggles with Season 2, since one of Charlie's main issues is she doesn't fucking listen to her at all until things hit rock bottom for the hotel. It's during the season-long crash out of Charlie's that Vaggie steps up and shows herself to be a capable hotel manager and much better at handling the logistics of the place, alongside handling the issue of the V's and their smear campaign. Unfortunately, Charlie fails to heed her advice on the latter until it's too late. But when she finally does, after our gal literally f***s the anxiety out of her, damn, she's good. The two return to being a proper power couple who help rally the rest of the gang into stopping the V's and rescuing their friends. Vaggie is Charlie's rock, and while they have their disagreements, she covers the areas the other struggles in, and when she finally gets over herself, the two are an unstoppable team. As for Steven's gal Connie, she was one of my personal favorite characters. She was an important figure in Steven's life, being one of his first true human friends that he openly shared his gym side with. As fascinated as Connie was by Steven and his gym adventures, Steven himself was enamored with the many mundane and normal things in her own life, such as school, and the other things he didn't get to have being raised by the alien gyms. An important note about Connie is that while she cared about Steven as a friend and eventually a romantic partner as they grew up, Connie was always her own person. She had a life, dreams, aspirations, and other hobbies that didn't simply revolve around Steven. While they grew to love each other, becoming combat partners in the gym conflicts, and ultimately wanted to be a part of his universe, she did always make time for her own needs and dreams, which Steven supported. After getting over his own emotional issues, as we'll cover, there's no better literal example than their fusion form, the non-binary icon themselves, Stevani. Again, gonna keep to the cliff notes here, but fusion is a process when two or multiple gyms connect on a spiritual level to be one mind and one body, being a physical manifestation of the connection between those gyms. Fusion has had multiple varying definitions of what it represents. For home planet gyms, it's simply a collaboration between similar gyms for a power boost. But for those who dared, and to connect in a way beyond rigid societal laws and sensibilities, fusion was a manifestation of love. The best example being the fan favorite Two Lesbians in a Trench Coat, aka Garnet. But love comes in many forms, particularly with Steven as a half-gym human. His eventual fusions with his foster mothers and dad are very much familial love, a representation of his bond with them as a family. Stevani is very particularly a manifestation of his and Connie's budding romantic love. Had to make that distinction because bad faith bozos have often tried to make the concept of fusion purely sexual, to try and trash on the show on its LGBTQ concepts. Another thing Steven and Charlie have in common, but I digress. Stevani is a fascinating character in their own right. Throughout their appearances in the show, you see them as a metaphor for Steven and Connie's awkward budding relationship. The highs and lows, the struggles, and ultimately the acceptance as they both learn to love themselves and each other, helping Stevani become a much more stable and happy person when they're fused together. While Steven came close to fumbling their relationship during his miniseries-long downward spiral in Future, trying to pressure her into what was basically marriage when she wasn't ready, Connie would eventually put the pieces together about Steven's mental state and be the one to rally the others to be there for Steven as much as he's been there for them, and instrumental in saving her boyfriend from himself, which we'll finally be covering next. They end the series together, but giving each other the space they need to figure out their own lives, with the promise of always being there for each other, and definitely looking to be Mrs. Universe when she's ready. We stan Connie Maheshwaran in this house. It's time to wrap up this video by discussing the uglier sides of these two rosy-cheeked sweethearts, but their victories in overcoming them as well. I'm sure for the Hazbin fans who made it this far, that might come off unintentionally as a sick joke, since this entire video has been talking about Charlie's frustrating failures. But strap in because I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. Charlie has always been described as an unironic Disney princess in literal hell. She's perky, upbeat, and kind to a fault, but her optimism and sweetness is tied to her privileged upbringing as demon royalty. While as an adult most treat her as a pushover in their cynical might makes right society, she's still mostly shielded from the harsh realities of demon and sinner kind due to her noble status. This leaves her a bit ignorant to the exact problems sinners face and the struggles they have that keep them wallowing in their own depravity and vices over seeking to better themselves. Charlie, while well-intentioned, is very much a clueless, privileged activist type who champions a good cause, but neither has much real experience in how to facilitate a realistically good outcome for said cause, and ultimately mired in her own deep-seated narcissism and mommy issues over it. Despite what she may say, and Season 2 really hammers this home, Her reputation as a joke with Hellkind does bother her on some level, along with people considering her a piss-poor imitation of her mother. So when she finds out Serpentius lived and actually got redeemed, it's telling her first reaction on instinct was to pump herself up for being proven right, and try to run to every news station to tell most of hell to suck it for not believing her. This obsession with seeking vindication and crashing out over Vox's fake news drama spins on the hotel would be her greatest weakness through season 2. It causes her to fumble her actual redemption plans, and because she keeps taking Vox's bait, no one is willing to give her the benefit of the doubt until it's too late by the end of season 2. And it takes Vox literally crashing out himself, killing everyone trying to kill Alistair to get people to see her side. Without much effort on her part, I must add. A lot of season 2 felt like it was intending to show even Charlie had her own problems, and she needed to sort them out before she could actually help others like Serpentius find redemption. The counselor needed her own counseling, so to speak, but she kind of already went through that during season 1, so a lot of season 2 felt like she was going backwards in the most frustrating ways. Ultimately, she comes to the realization while she did have good intentions, she did have a lot more of her father's sin of pride nature within her than she wanted to admit. Alongside that, she also wanted to make the hotel work less for the sinner's well-being entirely, and more of weakly hoping it would make her deadbeat mom come home and tell her how proud she was. Thanks to Vaggie and the gang's love and support, she slowly starts overcoming this despair-induced selfishness. By the end of season 2, finally accepts she's not the leader her mom was, giving that position to Vaggie so she can focus on what she needs to do, helping others find redemption. While unfortunately she's far from done with her personal drama since Mama Morningstar is seemingly coming back from the store in season 3. For now, Charlie has begun her own journey of redemption, so she can properly help others seek the same. As for Steven, this is the moment we stop hyping our boy and legitimately look at some of his more negative qualities. A lot of his early season issues are kinda harmless since he's a child, a baby. He makes a lot of dumb mistakes, but they're ones a dumb kid would make, which are not helped by the Crystal Gems' ignorance to human-based problems, and Greg's status as a failed man-child of an adult. The issue comes that a lot of his powers, which are tied to his emotions, tend to get out of whack and sometimes dangerous, particularly later on as he discovers more ugly truths about his mom, Jim Kind, and his own supposed destiny. And as he grew and went from one battle to another issue of Steven's would begin to fester over the series. One that wouldn't be directly confronted until the epilogue miniseries. Steven's savior complex and the self-destructive need to be helpful to people at his own expense. Steven spent 5 seasons and most of his childhood solving other people's problems. A lot of them a child had no business being involved in, and ultimately scarred him in ways he wouldn't realize until Steven Universe Future. This developed a bit of a non-malicious savior complex in him, to the point when Future rolls around, it causes the central problem for the entire miniseries. In Future, the diamonds are no longer a threat. The corrupted gems have been healed and integrated into Beach City society. Almost everyone's personal baggage has been settled, and everyone is moving on with their lives to bigger and better things. Except Steven. Without a planet or person to save, Steven realizes he has no plans for his own future. Not helping things is some of his mom's more destructive diamond powers manifesting with his new unstable emotional state, alongside finding out just how much physical and mental trauma his adventures had caused him. During Future, we see our boy slowly spiral into madness and bitterness at how his gym adventures didn't leave him ready for a normal human life. How everyone but him has a bright future ahead of them. At the same time, he refuses to talk to anyone about it, insisting he's fine and that he needs to be there to help others. Without a problem to solve, Steven feels useless and lost in this new future of his. His refusal of self-care and admitting he was having a mental health crisis would get worse after encountering a sorta redeemed Jasper, who gives him some rather bad advice about controlling his festering anger. which culminates in them having a no-holds-barred duel where Steven's collapsing mental state causes him to dig deep into his diamond powers, and ends up accidentally shattering the court soldier. While he quickly revives her with the diamond's essences, it needs to be stated that shattering a gem's physical form is akin to killing them 99% of the time. While it was an accident, Steven had committed the one thing he vowed to never do: kill a living being. His attempts to get guidance from the diamonds with his powers and spiraling mental state would end up even worse after mind melding with former final boss White Diamond. We find out deep down Steven never actually forgave her for attempting to kill him in the finale, and only buried it for the sake of galactic peace and healing the corrupted gems. Without his moral filter and his emotions running rampant, he tries to force White to shatter herself out of sheer spite, before he's able to get a hold of himself and flee in a terrified panic. The finale of Future would have the cast finally picking up that their boy is not fine, and try to hold an intervention that goes about as well as any intervention, honestly. Steven continues to deny he has a problem until he comes to the realization how far he's fallen, how he's a shadow of the loving defender of peace he was, and how much of a monster in his eyes he's become. And thanks once again to his spiraling gem powers, he ends up corrupting his own gem in his despair, turning himself into the monster he thought he was. Monster Steven will be a manifestation of his own rage and self-hatred, lashing out without any thought or care. While the cast will be at a loss what to do, Connie, as I mentioned, would be the one to rally them and realize what Steven needed: their love and support. While Steven's kind and helpful nature partially led to his own self-destructive crash out, it would finally be paid back tenfold. In an emotional final battle, Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, Peridot, Lapis, the Diamond, Spinel, the Cluster, Greg, everyone that Steven fought for and helped with their demons came to return the favor, to help this child get what he had been giving them for years: healing. Steven, lashing out and hating himself for everyone seeing him at his lowest, finds all the people he helped at theirs doing the same, and making it clear no matter what he did, they will be there for him like he was there for them. After finally letting his rage and despair run dry and calming him, they saved Steven from himself, and helped him take the first steps to healing his own soul. Granted, it loses points for the fact that all that healing and therapy happened off-screen. Another thing that him and Charlie have in common, I guess. But it's the thought that counts, I suppose. Steven ends his show in a much healthier and happier state, planning to wander the Earth to find his own answer to what the future holds for him, knowing no matter where he goes, his family will always be there with him, and always waiting for him when he's ready to return. The hero completes his journey, but starts a new one to find his place in the universe. While scarred, he holds his head high, still being the loving and empathetic healer we know and love, after finally healing himself. I want to like Charlie Morningstar. I see the potential and her good points, and I get what they were trying to teach with Season 2 about the dangers of over-focusing on drama baiting and losing focus on doing good. But it just wasn't executed the best and caused Charlie to falter as a character for many. And even at Steven's worst in the context of Future, it's still no contest. While my boy has taken an unfair thrashing over the years by grifty hate forum channels, he's always been the gold standard of a pacifist hero, and still full of his own flaws that he overcomes without fully making the audience groan in frustration. I'm still locked in for Season 3 of Hazbin, but time will tell if Charlie's lessons stick with her this time in the face of her approaching mommy issues. But at the end of the day, if these two were to meet, they'd probably be the best of friends and swap song ideas. Despite their own issues, they're both character types I love. Pacifist heroes are important. While I consider Steven a better example than Charlie given the context of their plots, they're both characters striving to make their universes better not through violence, but love and understanding. And I have hope Miss Morningstar will show us how much of a Steven she really is in the future. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking out my video. This was arguably the toughest video I've made this year due to its size, and doing it around constant holiday jobs and social engagements. So if you enjoyed it, please smash that like button and leave a comment down below. How do you feel about Stephen and Charlie? Did you like one more than the other? Got your own pacifist hero you'd like to discuss? Let me know down below. Be sure to subscribe for more awesome video essays and other super security fun. We're so close to 3,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and it would be amazing to end 2025 on that milestone. I also do gaming streams here and on the Purple site, so be sure to tune in when I'm live for more fun. Probably gonna have one last video this year, so I gotta hit the ground running with that one. Hope to see you all there for it, and have a lovely holiday season. Catch you all later.